What's up, Rock Metal Fan Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood metalhead, and I am so excited for episode 6 of the album Song Ranking Review Series, this time featuring Stoned by Baroness. For those of you that don't know Baroness, they are a metal band. They've been around for 20 years. This is their 6th studio album, 6th episode, 6th studio album. There you go. They're from Savannah, Georgia, and I've been asked, what do they sound like? And they're a pretty weird, unique band. They're technically metal. I'd call them progressive metal, maybe alternative metal. But overall, they have one of the most unique sounds in all of rock and metal today. So let's get into the song ranking. At number 10, I have Embers. Embers is the intro track of the album. It sets the stage. It's very quiet, kind of acoustic, a little bit sing-songy. Again, this is an intro. It's not its own song. If it's not its own song, it's usually at the bottom of my ranking, and it's hard. I'm not saying it's a bad intro. If anything, I think it's a perfect intro to the album, but in the context of a song ranking, it falls at number 10. Although this is merely an intro track, what is very interesting to note here is that newest member of the band, Gina Gleason, is harmonizing with John, and it sounds awesome. Her vocals are much more prominent in the mix. That's going to be a theme throughout Stone, and it sounds beautiful, especially in an acoustic setting. At number 9 is The Dirge. First of all, what on earth is a dirge? I am here to not only give you an album song rank and review, but also apparently to help with our vocabularies. Dirge is a song or hymn of grief or lamentation, a slow, solemn, and mournful piece of music, something such as a poem that has the qualities of a dirge. I love that last definition. Now, what's interesting about the dirge is, yes, it's an interlude track. You all know that I'm not crazy about interludes unless they really complement the album. Now, I like this interlude, though, and what John has said in interviews is that Beneath the Rose, Choir, and The Dirge are actually part of a trilogy. Reminds me of G.O.D. or G, Ordinary, and Death, which was on Avenged Sevenfold's album. These 3 songs tie into each other. If you consider them one song, it's the longest song on the album. However, they're broken out separately. Dirge is at the bottom here, but in context of the trilogy, it is really interesting. It's hypnotic, slow. We have the acoustic guitars again. John and Gina are harmonizing, and it sounds great. It's dreamy. It kind of puts you to sleep, and that's exactly what the band was going for. I've seen a lot of people either love or hate the song Choir, and I think it's actually pretty great. So, Choir comes in at number 8. Like I mentioned before, it is part of the trilogy of songs of Beneath the Rose, Choir, and The Dirge. This is the middle part, and if Tool and White Zombie had a baby, it would be Choir. It sounds very much like a mix specifically of Zombie by Tool and Black Sunshine by White Zombie. You've got spoken word vocals, a very consistent chugging riff. Now, Choir doesn't feel like a fully fledged out song, much like the 10th and 9th ranked songs here, but I think it's actually really fun. It's nostalgic. What I like too is that the lyrics tie right into Beneath the Rose. So one of the last lines of Beneath the Rose is, "And the choir invisible comes knocking, knocking." And then you get this really chugging, brooding riff that's in a weird time signature. Not nearly as weird as Zombies, but weird enough where it still has that Baroness flair without sounding too simple. I have Bloom ranked at number 7. This is the album closer, and it's a beautiful, beautiful track. Very acoustic, once again, kind of folksy. It ties directly into the song Embers. In my opinion, it even ties into The Dirge. Unlike those, this is a full song. This is a 4-minute song. Baroness is practically writing the textbook of how to bookend an album start to finish. Embers and Bloom flow into each other so easily, and everything in between here is so heavy with a few exceptions, yet by the time we get to Bloom and the lyrical themes that tie into each other, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful, and typically with Baroness, you don't have crazy awesome production. It's very raw. It's ugly, but awesome. Bloom is a gorgeous tune that once again features John and Gina harmonizing in such a remarkable way. The vocal performances on this album are unreal, and that is usually not a highlight point in a Baroness album. Next at number 6 is anodyne. So another word that I did not know what the hell it meant. As an adjective, it means not likely to provoke dissent or offense, inoffensive, often deliberately so. I don't think that's the actual meaning of the song. The noun is a pain-killing drug or medicine. That is probably what they were going for. Regardless, anodyne is a straightforward, rocking, badass tune. It's under 3.5 minutes, which is very rare for a full-fledged Baroness song. It's got a constant stomp and groove to it. And most importantly, it's easy to follow. Baroness can be a band that is very complex. They can challenge the listener, and I think that's a great thing. Anodyne is the easy song in the album, where you get vibes of driving, cranking it up to 11, and just nodding my head. Sometimes less is more. Anodyne proves that, and it is a bomb song. Another word that I typically wouldn't use to describe a Baroness song would be swagger. Anodyne's got a lot of swagger to it, a lot of attitude, which is, I think, is something the band has been missing for a while. Marching right into a top 5 spot is Under the Wheel. Under the Wheel is one of those songs that can get lost in the mix when you have so many great singles, unless you listen to the full album. It is a phenomenal song. It's crawled its way into the top 5 thanks to its sludgy, ugly, brooding tempo. It starts with very ominous bass lines. It's repetition. Repetition for effect, done in a really great way. Once again, stresses simplicity. Even though it is over 6 minutes, there's not a ton going on. It is overall a very dark and brooding vibe. Sometimes with dark and brooding songs, you might think they are repetitively boring. I did mention the main riff is a bit repetitive. However, halfway through the song, we get an epic crescendo. John's vocals are soaring over crashing guitars and drums, and it is awesome. It makes the whole buildup of the song worth it. More haunting lyrics, which is usually the case with Baroness. There's no doubt about it. Under the Wheel is depressing. It ends with the following lines: "We're under the wheel, now you don't have to turn, so take the best of us and burn the rest." The final minute of the tune features a fade out. I really don't like fade outs because I often feel like we miss certain great things that are being recorded that for stylistic reasons the volume is turning down. But this one makes sense. You know, the drums are slowing down, the guitars stop, and it sets the final song in the album, Bloom. Rank number 4 is Shine, a classic Baroness track. I love that Baroness will release a 6.5 minute single. They really don't care. They have such an artistic vision that there's less worry about radio time or if a radio will even play it. And it's more about their fans and just being awesome metal musicians. Shine has everything that makes Baroness a force to be reckoned with. But you have to wait for it. So the first minute is very slow. It's a build-up. Acoustic guitars, once again. There are a ton of acoustic guitars in this album. And to be honest, I haven't listened to Baroness in a long time, but I don't remember hearing this many acoustic guitars playing. I like it though. After that 1 minute wait, you hear a short drum roll, and boom! John and Gina's voices come together with heavy guitar riffs at the same time, and it's magical. It feels very comfortable. This is Baroness's wheelhouse. However, it still feels very new. That's not just because of Gina's vocals harmonizing with John's, but there seems to be more of an emphasis on hooks and groove. For a true prog metal single, Shine is a song that you instantly get the hook. It's right there, and it's not really a challenge to the listener. It's just good. There's a lot of drama in Shine, and I love that. The lyrics are incredibly deep. The choruses hit hard. Today I never saw the sun. Today your shadow was the only one. These are deep lyrics. Baroness has never shied away from getting very personal with their lyrics. Now, what is great is they're also very ambiguous at the same time. Shine, you could take this song in so many different ways lyrically. These 6.5 minutes go by really quick because the song has peaks and valleys, a lot of different things going on. You don't have traditional breakdowns with Baroness. Instead, you have bridge sections that are extended. The very sometimes overbearing guitar work all of a sudden takes a step back, and you have a clean kind of lead guitar riff. It's something that is very tastefully done and makes Baroness the most dynamic they've ever been. Entering the top 3 is Beneath the Rose. This is one of the singles of the album, and I find it very interesting that this song was actually intended to be on their previous album, Golden Grey, but the band felt like it just wasn't ready yet. However, they revisited it, changed, I'm sure, more than a few things, and you get Beneath the Rose. Usually I'm hesitant about songs like this because they're from a previous recording session, so maybe it won't fit in this album. However, Beneath the Rose fits in excellently. An awesome, awesome metal single. The riffs are very melodic. It's less bombastic and more straight up metal riffage. It is the first part of the trilogy of tracks 3, 4, and 5 that I mentioned before. By far the strongest of the trilogy, to be honest. They don't really need to be grouped together as a trilogy, or if anything, maybe it should have just been one song, but I get it. Probably for single purposes, Beneath the Rose is better off at over 5.5 minutes long. Beneath the Rose is a bit out there, even for Baroness. We haven't really heard a song like this, and it is extremely dynamic, similar to Shine. However, John's vocal deliveries are very different. He's doing more spoken word passages that I actually think sound very cool. Now, I don't think he has one of the best voices. However, it is incredibly unique, powerful, and it's dramatic and urgent. His deliveries are usually very urgent, almost pleading, and now you hear him do some spoken word parts, and I think he really pulls it off. Listen carefully to the layers of Beneath the Rose. There is so much to unpack with this. For example, light acoustic strums in the background of the chorus of a very heavy song. Still, you hear, if you listen closely, the faint strumming of acoustic guitars in the midst of these big power chords happening. There are also crazy drum fills throughout the song. Now, I mentioned the song is very dynamic, but the drum fills help keep Beneath the Rose moving at a very fast pace. It is a wild ride start to finish. Entering the top 2 is the longest song on Stone. And no, I don't want to hear it. Beneath the Rose, Choir, and The Dirge, even though they are a trilogy, they're 3 different songs, so I'm not including that trilogy as the longest song. Magnolia is the longest at 7 minutes and 50 seconds. What an absolute beast of a song. Everything you could possibly want in a Baroness song is in this. However, as a metal fan, it is filled with so much to unpack. Classic Baroness, you have almost 2 minutes of a quiet acoustic song. It's a slow build. In my opinion, this is also the album title track. Because Stone is mentioned so much in this song, it is the main theme. I found it very interesting that it comes up at track 8. The sequencing of Stone is very, very interesting, because then you have Under the Wheel, which is a downer, and then Bloom, which kind of made me feel good. But getting back to Magnolia, this song is so unpredictable and filled with creativity. I haven't really experienced a progressive metal song this year that has made me feel this way. The lyrical themes in this song are kind of soul-crushing in a way. You have lines like, heavy weight, one more stone leaving flaming arrows. Lyrics are very thought-provoking. There's themes of being low, of sinking, of escaping, of freedom, all within one song. And I think that these themes are also throughout the entire album. Despite the very deep themes and kind of melancholy approach lyrically, this song is super, super heavy. Yes, you have the 2-minute acoustic buildup, but Magnolia is still an absolute banger of a song. I wouldn't call Magnolia a fresh take for Baroness. They've been making songs like this for a while. However, I think overall, as a progressive metal song, this is still one of the most creative tracks that I've heard in several years. The number 1 ranked song on Stone for me is Last Word. This song has one of the best riffs I have ever heard, definitely this year, and I don't even know since when. What an epic return for Baroness. Last album was 4 years ago. I hadn't heard of too much activity from them, and then they released this banger. Oh, wow. The brutal intro riff sets the tone, and the song takes you somewhere you wouldn't expect. The verses quiet down. You have John and Gina again harmonizing. Since this was the first single of the album, it was our first take of John and Gina harmonizing with Gina's voice much higher in the mix. And it is fascinating. It sounds great. It added something new to Baroness's sound, but that really isn't the only thing. The complexity, the progressive song structure, and new ideas make Last Word such an enjoyable listen. Last Word is probably the most commercial that Baroness will ever sound, with the exception of the song Take My Bones Away. It's still over 6 minutes long, but it is a straightforward song. There aren't a ton of twists and turns. There's still plenty of complexity. Guitar players will definitely notice that, but Last Word is a song that is for Baroness fans and new fans. A song like Magnolia, which is epic in its own right, probably won't win the band too many new fans unless they're very much into prog. Now, I still think it's the second best song on the album. However, Last Word is sure to get any metalhead rocking, regardless of their thoughts or if they've even heard of Baroness. Chorus is incredibly emotional. It's relatable. John sings, "I remember every last word. I remember it all." He repeats this, and these are lyrics I love because they're very deep, but also very relatable and ambiguous enough to apply to so many things or so many people in your life. But a statement song for Baroness to come back with. I've mentioned incredible riffs. I've mentioned quiet verses. Now, what happens when you combine heavy distorted guitars with awesome clean guitar leads? You get Last Word. So many times that happens, and it adds to the delicacy, the vulnerability of the song, and that is a very hard thing to pull off, and Baroness does it flawlessly. Baroness is an anomaly. They are such an interesting band. I never know how to describe them other than that they are very, very good musicians. In previous albums, the production quality has not been that great, and that is totally intentional. They're purposely not glossy albums. I think a lot of albums are overproduced. Baroness produced their own music, and they have a very distinct sound. As much as they've stuck with their sound, I think Stone is a huge revival for the band. The creative juices really seem flowing for them, and they're also a band that's known to occasionally do double albums. Now, this album, it's 10 songs, 46 minutes, and it actually left me wanting more, and I think that's a sign of a great album. They could have probably done a double album. Apparently, they wrote and recorded 30 songs. 10 made the cut, and that even includes a few interludes. But this album is stacked with phenomenal material, and I think if an album leaves you wanting more, that's a very good thing. Creatively speaking, Stone is a revival for this band. Things started sounding a little flat in their previous effort. This album is incredibly fresh for such a garage-sounding band. There's many reasons why things sound fresh, but by far the most salient reason is having newest member of the band and lead guitarist Gina singing and having her voice much more prevalent in the mix next to John's. This creates a very, very new dynamic. So that's the most obvious change from previous albums. However, there's also new vocal deliveries from John, a little more spoken word action, cool interludes, heavy emphasis on acoustic guitars that really make the heavier moments stick out in the context of Stone. Of the album's song ranks and reviews that I've done this year, Stone is currently sitting at number 1 with a 9.3 rating. The quality of this album is simply phenomenal. Next level. If you haven't listened to it, you need to listen to it. Stone, Baroness, 9.3. Please like, comment, and subscribe over there to join the Rock Metal Fan Nation. Thank you all again for watching. See you next time.